Welcome to another Planet 6 parts video. Welcome to the next part of tr6 engine rebuild. So, in the last video I'd had this upside down on the ground and I was taking out all the core plugs. To which one of them back here gave me an absolute nightmare. I'm not going to lie. Thank God I wasn't recording it. I'll show you. So obviously this one here was an absolute curse to remove. However, to do it right you want to make sure you get it out. There's a nice view all the way through with the camshaft, guys. And if you really want to, you can replace the bearings in here. There's actually bearings you can pop out and pop back in. Anyway, I missed one core, so I have to take that one out. But what I wanted to show you beforehand is here. So these are the larger cores. And as you can see, there's nothing in the middle. Nothing at all, other than dirt. So when you're tapping these out, what you want to do is make sure if you pick top or bottom, whatever you want to start with, come up with a small bit and just keep tapping in. Just keep going straight all the way in. The opposite end will come out. When you see a bit of a gap in it, stop. Because if you go too far, it will just start to push the whole thing in and it will drop in there. And believe me, I've done that. And when it drops in there, it's going to take you a long time to get out. Because you have to flip it upside down and try get it to here and try pinch it out and everything. Believe me, it's a nightmare. So when the bottom end goes in, just do it. Once you see a little gap at the top, get a flathead screwdriver or something and pinch it out that it almost rotates all the way and then just pull it. So just be mindful of this side on the exhaust side of the engine, that these are hollow all the way. Your other ones, that's the one I took out. On the far side, like I said, it has a wall at the outside, and there's only a section in the middle, and there's only one gap. So ideally, aim for the bottom. And what you may have to do the same is like this one, right? Because I've missed this one here. Hope you can see it. If you punch in the middle and you put a screwdriver in, she's not popping out pretty good. Because at the end of the day, these are coming out, they're being destroyed, they're being replaced anyway, so who cares? Tap down. Oh, let me get a screwdriver. Tap down on the top like this and punch down. Once you get that and get a good lip, you can actually go rotate, so you can go clockwise or anti-clockwise and just make a spin, and that should break the seal enough that it should pop out. Again, be mindful of up here that they don't fall in, because this one can fall in as well. The far one shouldn't fall in because you have the cast has like a wall on the outside. Anyway, this is the video is not for that. We're going to do something else. What we're going to do is we're going to measure or go through our cylinders. So this is an early block, and it's actually, to be honest, it's actually a very early block. Someone bashed out a letter out here for some reason, which looks like they bashed out the H for high compression. Actually, it doesn't feel. If you want to know if you have a high compression engine or not, there's your engine number. Sorry, it's sideways. Well, let me turn the phone. Hopefully, it stays right. And I'll zoom in so you can see it. But you have your CC or whatever number. You have your number, and then right here, you'll have HE. I don't know. It's not zooming in very good. Oh, it's a bit better. It will say HE. As you can see, there was a H here. You can see the outline of it, but somebody looked like they bashed it with a hammer. I don't know why, but take that out. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to measure the cylinders. Now, this is a very, very early engine, and the reason why we know this is that usually, and in my other videos, you see the later models have the stamps here. I've done a video on it before, and it tells you which cylinder was which when it was first casted. So it says like AAB, and then up here it will say like BBB or AAA, whatever it was. The early ones are a little different. They actually have the stamp right in front of each cylinder. So the early ones will have that. However, this is so early, it goes by an earlier stamp. And I'm going to zoom in so you can see it. If you can make that out, there's a stamp that says F. Go to the next cylinder. I don't know if you can see it, but it actually is F. It's right there. The next one's an F again. You can see the outline of it. Then we have another F. You can see a little better. And then we've F and we've F again. Alright. I know it's hard for the camera to see, but I can see it. So it's just here. You can just see the top end of it. Anyway, the early models had three different stamps. They had an F, a G, and a H, I believe. In equivalence, what they done was they replaced it with A and B. So the F being is the A, and the G and H is equivalent to a B, which is a little bit bigger. So if you're checking your measurements, the book will tell you A or B. If it's an F, we're going A or B. How else do we know this? Well, when you take the pistons out, you want to check to see what they are. Because you don't want to be putting the wrong ones in. Sorry, it's a fly in here, a mosquito. It's going to eat me. When I start taking this apart, Has the cylinder was the piston that was busted. As you can see, it's gone. I don't know how it stayed in one piece, to be honest. But the whole head is gone. The crown it's sloped down and everything. This is at the point of completely obliterating. So obviously that's a major concern. So before you dig deeper into this, if you look at the top of it as well, that's why it wasn't firing. It's like the lunar surface. You want to check your cylinders first before you go put all the effort into cleaning it and washing it, because you might have to send off to the machine shop. Now obviously because of that, that one I believe was number, it says number, no, I picked the wrong one. I think it wasn't 6, I think it was 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Head's 4. Head's the one that's causing the trouble. So what I've done was I looked around it and made sure there was no major scoring at the edge. Like nothing that sticks out that it needs. Like I'm going to hone it, which is fine. But you want to make sure there's no major damage. Now lucky enough, considering the chunk that came out of that, it didn't actually scratch the edge. It actually looks pretty decent, consider. Nothing that a hone wouldn't take out. So, well, I feel something at the very top, but I'll have to spin the engine around to see that. But we'll see, it's right up here. I don't know, there could be, to be honest, I could be feeling a bit of carbon that's stuck there. So, I'll have to spin it around to see that, because I can't see it from this side. Anyway, before I go getting into it more, I want to make sure that they actually fall all within measurement. So even if this isn't in these machined, let's go check to see. So, how does that work? I'm going to take my gloves off, so it's got them oily. So the pistons actually go crossways. So the way the crank works, the crank goes around, the piston as it comes up swivels left to right, not front to back. So all the swelling is actually this way across the engine. So we want to make sure we measure the top, middle and bottom. Because if there's too much pressure or too little, you might get more swelling on the middle of it and not the bottom. So therefore the pressure, you'll lose pressure because it'll come up and swell out and go back in again. And that the tolerance is lost. Anywhere that the tolerance, bloody mosquitoes flying around my head. Anywhere you go over and it's too big, then it has to be machined. You machine one, you machine them all. Like anything, always double check them all. For example, don't take one out and say, hey, look, the piston was a standard, that means the yaw must be standard. If you hadn't had the engine since the start, you don't know what somebody's done with it. Don't take the chance that somebody hasn't bored one bigger on its own and that's it, just to cut corners. You don't know. So like anything, you want to check them all. So in this case, we picked them up, and as I pulled them all apart, I checked, and as you can see, they're all stamped F. So at least I know, sorry the camera's moving, at least I know they're all the same. So I just done enough to clean them. And again, your arrow here points towards the front, because I'm pretty sure somebody once said the F stands for front. No, it's the size. This is where it goes. All right? The newer ones actually say the word front on it. But you can see this one as well. You can see this one that's not much better. This one is at the point of smashing as well. So these pistons I've seen, these pistons have seen awful work. All right, they've been in there a long time. So I checked them all to make sure they were all F, which they are, so that's great. So at least I know they're all the same. So now we're gonna bug off, fly. Jeez, that's the worst thing about doing the video later on, because the light is on and everything flies towards the light. So how do we measure them? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the book. Is that, again, this is an F and it's based off an A. So we go to our data sheet and our book, if you have one, and we're looking at our pistons bore size, right? So that's the bore size we're going to. It says we get an A and a B. So if you have an F, it's equivalent to an A. If you have the G or H, it's equivalent to B. So here's our sizes, both in mil and metric and imperial. Now, you can do this whatever way you want. Me, I personally go for the larger number. The reason why, that's the maximum tolerance before you go oversized. So if for any point that the gauge doesn't get up to this number, then I know it's the hole is bigger. You could do it this way if you want, and to make sure you're allowed to go over, it means you're waiting for it to stop a little bit beforehand. But I personally prefer to go with the larger number, the maximum it's allowed for standard. And then if it goes, if it stops before the gauge, where does it stop? Like 1 thou, 2 thou, and so on and so forth. All right, so that's the way I do it personally. So next part is, how do we set it up? Alright, let's just go set it up. So what you will need for this is a dial indicator of some sort. This one is, I'd like to do with this one. So we'll turn it on and set it to inches. Now the measurement was 2.9410. So we're going to set it to that. So as I get nearer, I tighten this in a bit so it moves a little slower. This could take a little bit of time. So what am I on? 2.9. Oh, sorry, I'm way over. 6, 7, 8. 2.949. I'm going to 2.94. Sorry, the mosquito was eating me. 2.941. I'm looking at this through the phone, so. 2.941. Alright, so I'll make sure to lock that in. And there we go. So I know that's the maximum size. So what I'll do is I'll basically put this in the vise. Now I've already pre-done this, to be honest, I'm not going to lie. I've already gone through this rigmarole. Alright. So next thing you want is a bore gauge. So in this case, this is a one for imperial. You can get a metric one as well. So if you're using the other ones, you can do the metric gauge, either or. I have both, so I can't really go wrong, hopefully. Well, at least I hope. So what we want to do is you want to take your bits and pieces out to measure, if you've ever done this before, find a video on it to make sure which side is which. There is videos out there on how to set them. And for me, now I have to zoom out again. Bring the camera up. Loads of stuff on the floor here that need to clean it. So again, I've set this, and what I do is I will measure it to the max size. So once you put it in between the groove, and you're watching your gauge. So I need to put it further. Hang on. Basically, when it goes to the max, they zero it out. So to me, the maximum size it opens or pushes in on is set to 0. Now I have to look at it myself. Stuff in the way. I have to zoom in to find out where the head of it is. There we go. So I'll just hold it still and run it in between until I know it's not exactly. Let me get the gauge first. Hang on. Sorry, I keep moving this because I want you to show you where I am with it. Hopefully this is it. Nope. Anyway, you probably see a little better if it zooms in. Oh, there we go. Not fully on it. Anyway, I measure it down, and what I'm going to do is the furthest point it goes is 0 and then comes back. So in this case, it's going to 1 thou beyond. So what we'll do is I'll move this to 1 thou back. Just enough. So again, when you hold it, you want to set it that it stops at 0. I should still go with thou, even though we moved it. I know, I don't want to see a video on how to do this. Alright, so let's do this a bit quicker. Alright, that's on the nose. Hope you can see that, if you've seen that. So I'm going to run it down, it stops at 0, and that's it. Alright, so, whew, it's hard to do when you're watching the phone on that. So, I'll actually have to turn it sideways. So now, let's just pick this cylinder here. So I'm going to zoom out again. So we're going to place it in. And basically what I do is we're going to look at it. I can't do this with one hand. And give me a second, I have to turn the engine block. Okay, that should be better. Okay. So what I'm measuring, and I know you can't really see, is that when we go to gauge and go along, you want to make sure, for me, that it doesn't, no I can't see because the camera's in the way, that it doesn't go shorter than 0. So you can see this one is bang on 0. Now again, you have to be mindful where it is. Let's say you are setting your gauge and you haven't set it to 0, or it's, let's say, 1 thou before or after. As long as you know where the top section is, in other words, as long as you know when you get to this max setting of where this stops, that's fine. You don't have to zero the gauge as long as you know which marking it is. And then again, you're just going to come along and you're going to move it until it stops and see, and do it a few times. So in this case, this was 0, and I know it's pretty good all the way down. And then we're going to drop it mid-cylinder and do the same. Just be careful when you do this because it's hard to see it, because you want to make sure you actually stay in line, because what will happen to me a few times, I'll do it and I'll twist it. If I start to go down, it'll twist and it'll give me a wrong reading. So you have to make sure you stay dead level with it. And for me, I'm looking, so like I said, if I was short by 2 thou, I know, hey, this is 2 thou too wide. Because I set this to the max tolerance. So if it goes beyond it, if it goes beyond the 0, I know it's narrower, which is fine. But it shouldn't go more than 1 thou, because if you look at the measurements on it, it shouldn't be that. If it's really short, then something's wrong. So that's that one there. So again, I've already done this and I've literally gone down and checked them all. And what you want to do is, you want to write down where you get. So in other words, if let's say, for example, you do the top one and it's bang on, you have it zeroed out completely and it's bang on 0, that's fine. Just mark it negative because there's no movement on it. You want to make sure if it goes, if you're doing it this way, that if you're short by 2 markings, that you read the markings on it. So in this case, each marking is worth 1 thou. So if you're 2 markings shy, you're 2 thousandths oversized. If that makes any sense. I hope I said it right as well. That's why I've measured for the maximum tolerance. So the maximum should be the 0. So if I don't reach that, it's too wide. Because you can see, as this pushes in, the gauge has to reach it. If it goes beyond it, it's too short. And in this case, if you look at the book, I think you have 9.1, 9.04. You basically have 5 thou, 5 thousandths of an inch. Compared to this gauge, that's actually a pretty decent number to be within. 5 thousandths. So in this case, I could go, if I went to absolute 0, I can go up to there and still be within range. In this case, it's all bang on 0, so it's pretty tolerant. It's pretty maxed out in that case. I'd like to see it shorter. If you're not sure, like in that way, if you're not sure exactly where the gauge is, then go to smaller number and you can go beyond. But again, the main thing is to know exactly where the widest, or the point is when you measure where the needle stops and starts to go back. That's the most squeezed part of it. And then wherever you want to go that from, that's fine. And then, like I said, just write it down and log down all the numbers. So I'm going to log all these down. And then once I know that we're all within range, I know it doesn't have to be machined. At least that's one thing. The only thing is though, if I'm now hitting 0s all the way, these cylinders are pretty maxed out, which means if I hone them, I'll probably end up going over. It depends how smooth they are. I might only need to do it a tiny bit, which is fine. But yeah, I would have preferred if I had like a towel, 1 towel or 2 towel to play with, so I could give them a good machining and know that I'm not going oversized. However, if that's the case, do you know what? I can hone them. If I go 1 towel over, then that's fine. I can deal with that by replacing stuff. But like half a towel, if I go over by half, do you know what? You'll live with that. Do you know what I mean? You'll live with that. So that's it for this video. So I'm going to continue doing that, and I'm going to double check them again. I will check this way and I'll check that way as well. But remember, all the swelling is on this way, left to right. So that's the important way to measure, not front to back, side to side. And that's it. So you should have basically 18 settings or 18 markings. And again, like I said, it's just make sure all your pistons that came out of each cylinder are all match up with the cylinders. So if these are all stamped F, and I get a load of cylinders that are stamped plus 0.01, then I know, hey, I mean, something was this is being machined. The other difference is, might as well say, if you're different between an early or late. An early one, the cylinders are bored directly to the block, when the later ones actually have a sleeve, so you can actually bore out and put a sleeve in. Not saying you can't do with these, but you've pretty much no tolerance, no extra space to go with. And if you ever see the heads on the later models, they do look different. So that's it. So yeah, that's it for this video. I'm going to continue on, and then once I know everything is good and golden, then it's going to be bath time for this. And then once it gets bath, then I'll actually hone them. I don't hone them until I've washed out all the crap out, because again, I don't want to hone them to get in case there's any bits of debris, because I'm only going to scratch up the surface again. So that's it. Thanks for this video. I know I dragged it on a bit, but again, check your markings, check your things, and if any comments, questions, concerns around it, give me a shout. I'll help you as best I can. And that's it. So see you in the next part. Thanks for watching.